Hey, what's going on? This is the Body Punch Podcast, and my name is Naz. We have one of the most stacked cards coming up with Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor fighting again. This is going to clear up so much in this lightweight division because we also got Dan Hooker and Michael Chandler fighting on this card. This is going to be amazing for the sport, and it's amazing for the UFC to open up the year of 2021 like this. Having such a spectacular 2020, I can't wait for this year. It's going to stack up to be one of the best. Now, because of the magnitude of this card, I brought out some guests. Now, if you're previous listeners to this podcast, you know that most of them are done by myself. So it's very special when I have other people on the podcast. So I brought out some of the most knowledgeable people that I know in the sport. These are people that I count on every time there's a UFC, boxing, or any kind of combat sport. I call them up all the time. We chat about every single fight. And this is the crew that I rely on. So the first person that I want to introduce is Jay. Jay, go ahead.
Hey guys, nice to meet you. I'm excited to be here today on the Body Punch and share my thoughts with you guys. I'm excited to be here. Let's get it going.
Yeah, Jay brings a lot to this podcast, and you'll see by his knowledge. Now, next, Larry, go ahead.
Hey, my name is Larry, and I'm excited to be here on this podcast to talk between everyone over this big fight.
Yeah, I agree. This is a major fight, major implications. We'll find out a lot because of this fight. Kevin, go ahead.
Hey, what's up? My name's Kevin. I'm excited to finally be here. I've been looking forward to it. I'm excited about what we have to talk about tonight.
Man, me and Kevin have had some experiences when it comes to the UFC. We've seen it all. We've gone to events together. We've seen some amazing stuff. I remember me and Kevin saw the Francis Ngannou knockout on Alistair Overeem, where I thought that Alistair Overeem's head went over the fence and into the bleachers. Okay.
We thought he died.
Yeah, we thought he died. Nibs, go ahead.
Hey, thanks for having me back on the podcast. I'm excited, especially for this card, which is so important, and I'm happy to see Conor McGregor back fighting.
It's always best when Conor McGregor is in the fight game. I cannot agree more. Conor McGregor is one of the greatest assets to fighting. He's the biggest star in our sport. And that's why we brought out Maz as well.
Hey guys, I'm glad to be back yet once again to do a full analysis on this very exciting bout to start off 2021.
Yeah, I cannot agree with you more. This 2021 is shaping up to be one of the greatest years for the UFC. We also found that there were reports on Khabib Nurmagomedov coming back. With Khabib coming back, this could answer a lot of questions in this sport. Now, we all know that Khabib Nurmagomedov retired after his fight with Justin Gaethje, where he hit him with that amazing triangle choke. Now, a lot of reports are coming out saying that Khabib Nurmagomedov is thinking about making his return. Dana White having his meeting with Khabib Nurmagomedov and telling us that he might or might not come back based on the fight with Poirier and McGregor. And a lot of speculations are going out that the Dan Hooker fight and Michael Chandler fight have something to do with this as well. Now, guys, and I'll start with Larry here. How important do you think Khabib Nurmagomedov coming back is to this sport and to this division? Do you think he needs to come back?
I think it would definitely be crazy seeing him back fighting in the UFC ring, in the octagon again. I think it would definitely bring something back to the sport. And he's just overall he's crazy. He's an animal. And every time he's fighting, he puts on a show for everyone.
And Mass, seeing the way that Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov had such this horrible confrontation, How do you think that's going to affect Conor McGregor going into the ring against Dustin Poirier? Do you think he's going to put on a show, or do you think that he's just going to go in there for the win no matter what, even if it's boring? Mass, go ahead.
That's a very good question that everyone's bringing up these days. Here's the thing. If you look at Conor's demeanor heading into that Khabib fight, that fight was personal. That was very personal. And if you compare that to this fight right now, Dustin Poirier, Conor, we're seeing a very calm, composed, level-headed McGregor right now, right? From the face-off, he's very charismatic. He's outgoing. He's we're not seeing many of the trash talking during the conferences right now. And one thing I always tell my friends when we talk about McGregor, whenever we see a calm McGregor is a very dangerous McGregor inside the cage. A very dangerous McGregor.
Yeah, and we can see by Conor McGregor's stats, Kevin, that when he goes in there for the kill, he has an amazing KO percentage. I mean, he's got 86% KO wins. Now, we saw him against Donald Cerrone, and the way that he viciously knocked him out, but he remained calm in the moment. Conor McGregor, if you remember, was very calm in the press conference. How do you think that his calmness now is going to affect his fight with Dustin Poirier, Kevin?
I think we might see what happened to Cerrone happen to Dustin as well. But this might be a fight. I think Khabib humbled him, which is why he's a little calm now. But we'll see. I think it's going to be a fight. Last time they fought, they were both fairly new, sort of, you can say. But Dustin's had his fights. Conor's had his fights. So we'll definitely see him. I'm hoping this will be a fun fight to watch.
Yeah, I mean, I think this fight has a lot of fireworks on it. We're going to see Conor McGregor come in there and him coming out with all these reports saying, guys, I just want to fight. I don't care about the money anymore. He's walking around with watches that cost $1 million. He's got his kids sitting in the front row. I think this has really changed him. The Conor McGregor with kids now has really changed him. And I think, Kevin, you brought up a really good point. The fact is when he fought against Khabib Nurmagomedov, he was humbled in some points. That was a very horrible and, it was a really bad way for Conor McGregor to really introduce himself to everybody. He was a megastar at the time. But when he fought Khabib Nurmagomedov, it went to another level of disrespect, and it was just horrible for the sport. Now, this fight with Dustin Poirier, now this is one that's been in the making for a little while. A lot of people are coming out and saying that Conor McGregor already knocked this guy out in the first round. What can he do to win again? What is it going to do to his career? He's already knocked this guy out. But Dustin Poirier, and I think, Jay, you'll agree with me because you followed his career for a little while. But the fact is that Dustin Poirier is not the same as he once was. When he originally fought Conor McGregor, he's not the same fighter as he once was.
No, I agree.
Hey, what do you think about that? Tell us.
No, I agree with you with some points on there. I think he was younger. He didn't have as much as he does now under his belt. Conor McGregor was on a little break from the UFC, so I think that's going to be an impact on him. I don't know exactly how long it's been since his last fight in the UFC arena, but I think it's been a little while. I think that's going to take an effect on him, so it's going to be an interesting one. I'm still thinking McGregor should take it, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, so since the last time Conor McGregor fought in the ring was a year ago, and it seems like every year Conor McGregor likes to fight at this time of the year in January. The last time he fought was against Donald Cerrone. Now, Nibs, you can tell me a little bit about this, and we talked about this before, but was Cowboy Cerrone the best test for Conor McGregor? I know me and you have seen Cowboy Cerrone fight live against Aloy Quinta, and that was an amazing fight on its own. But then when we saw him fight Conor McGregor, was he the same cowboy Cerrone, or is that a great way to measure Conor McGregor? What do you think, Nibs?
Yeah, I remember when we saw Donald Cerrone versus Al, and I saw that the cowboy had a lot of stamina because it went all the way to decision, and just to see that, like before the Conor McGregor versus Cowboy fight, I was worried that McGregor might not be able to keep up with Cerrone in terms of that, but we saw him just end him in the first round. So I feel like that cowboy wasn't the same cowboy that we saw on fight night.
Yeah, I mean, it seems. See, this is what happens with Conor McGregor, and I think Larry, you can talk about this because you know a lot about how it affects other fighters. But Conor McGregor's mystique in the sport is really special, and it's really unseen. Because when Conor McGregor starts barking at you and telling you that I'm going to win by any cost, well, that has a certain kind of, you know, it makes you feel a little bit less than what you actually are. And I've been reading Twitter, I've been reading social media, and a lot of people are out here saying that Conor McGregor is not skilled. He's not the most skilled fighter. He just barks at people. He just yells at people. Larry, do you think that? Yeah, do you think that him not talking as much is going to affect Dustin Poirier? Because I don't know if you remember, but this was a little while ago. But when Dustin Poirier and Conor McGregor first fought, it was a grudge match. These guys hated each other. They wanted to kill each other, honestly.
Yeah.
Because Conor McGregor was the one coming up. Dustin Poirier was the established fighter. And Conor McGregor was going to take his spot to become the superstar that he is. Do you think that him not talking is going to have the same effect that he had on Dustin, Larry?
I think Conor McGregor, he talks a lot, but he definitely walks the talk after he talks. You know, he's an animal in the cage. But him definitely not talking this time, I think it may have slight effect because every time he's, barking at his opponent, like you said, it makes the opponent feel less of themselves and definitely puts an effect on the way that they're going to perform in the cage. I think it's definitely going to have an effect, but overall, I feel like it's going to be a great fight and a competitive fight as well.
Yeah, Mass, what do you think about that?
One thing I'll say is to add on to what you guys are previously talking about, because here's the thing, a lot of people say that whenever Conor does his talking and his trash talking, he gets in his opponent's head, right? And we've seen that a bunch of times, whether it was Poirier in the first one, Aldo. I can also say that, when Conor doesn't do the talking, he's just as dangerous. Listen, Conor, if you've been following Conor for his entire career, how he was brought up, right? He talks about the law of attraction, how he connects with his emotions, his thoughts, everything, right? He's a very thorough and thoughtful person. When Conor doesn't talk, that means Conor is going to work. And that's what I've been thinking, earlier in a couple of the press conferences, Conor was saying that, I want to fight 7 times in 18 months. He's like, that's what I want. He's like, I don't care about the belt right now. I just want opponents coming right at me. And this reminds me of the previous McGregor we saw in the featherweight division.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I talked about this in I think my last podcast. But the fact is when Conor McGregor saw him plateauing, losing fans by all the aggressive nature that he showed, I think that really flipped a switch in his head. Because then he saw how Mike Tyson's career went. Mike Tyson was accused for multiple things, having a bunch of lawsuits. We see a lawsuit just came out for Conor McGregor recently. But Mike Tyson at the time was very aggressive, and he went after the reporters. But Conor McGregor has this calmness about him. Now, I think, just to switch the topics a little, I think that the last fight that we saw, the best version of Conor McGregor, was against Eddie Alvarez. Now, I know I annoy you guys a lot with how many highlights I show of Eddie Alvarez, but Jay, the way that Conor McGregor was in that fight, it was like he was in the Matrix. Do you think that we're going to get anything like that in this fight? Because Eddie Alvarez kept on saying, my game plan was to wrestle Conor McGregor, was to wrestle him. But throughout the whole fight, he didn't go for one takedown. Conor McGregor lit him up on the feet. What do you think about that, Jay?
Yeah, I think that was a really good fight. I remember watching that one. I think, you know, if they have the similar fight style, I think it could either go, it could end up being the same results as Eddie Alvarez. But to be honest, I think they're completely different fighters. And to be honest, I'll have to see what happens in the cage. I'm not too sure about what will happen. But with those two fighters, two different styles. I'm not even really too sure in that situation, to be honest.
Yeah. Kevin, what do you think is the best, or when do you think we saw the best Conor McGregor?
I think the best was probably the Eddie fight. He lit him up, and it was amazing to see all the trash talking that was involved. That was what was Conor McGregor to us. Like, we saw that, and that just put that hype all together, and just the way he just, like you said earlier just now, like we saw no wrestling. Eddie went for no takedowns, and Conor just lit him up left, right, and center. He didn't know what to do with himself.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was an amazing fight. It was spectacular. Nibs, what did you think about that fight? And when do you think we saw the best Conor McGregor? And here's another question for you. When do you think we saw the worst Conor McGregor?
Well, personally, I would have to agree with Eddie Alvarez, but I think also the Nate Diaz fight was a really good one because before that he had the same fight against the same opponent and he lost. So just to see him come back after that and take the win, that was pretty amazing to see.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, the Nate Diaz fight showed a lot of character of Conor McGregor. When you lose to someone and then run it back, it shows a lot about who you are. And then on top of that, you do it at the same weight at 170. That takes a lot of guts. And Mass, I remember we were talking about this when that fight happened, is everybody thought Conor McGregor's career was over. He hit the rock bottom. And how would you explain, Mass, Conor McGregor's rise back up after the second Nate Diaz fight?
Well, it's a very good question you asked right there. Here's the thing. What I believe is Conor was there physically during the first Nate Diaz fight, right? But he wasn't really there mentally. Like I said earlier, you know, when we see the trash talking Conor, like, for example, the Eddie Alvarez fight, he was trash talking, but he backed that up by walking the walk, right? With that Nate Diaz fight, he wasn't there with his attitude, and I think that's what happened. Now, we got to look at Conor right now, okay? Conor's been through a lot ever since that fight. His rise to fame, he's a father now. Fatherhood has changed him. He's been humbled. He's been humbled by life, by, we've seen him in the news. He's had a lot of relationship problems. And also, I can say that Khabib did humble him, right? We did see a Conor that was right at rock bottom during that Khabib fight. And, I hate to say this because I'm a big Khabib fan, but you know what? Conor was, he hit rock bottom not only during the first Nate Diaz fight, but also recently against Khabib. Not recently, over a year and a half ago, but I think fatherhood changed him. He's been through a lot. He has the money, and now he understands, like he was saying earlier in a press conference, he said that, I have everything in the world. He said, money comes and goes. I have it all. But you know what? I'm here for the highlight reels, right? I want a highlight reel that can be looked back at once I'm gone, right? Because the money's, like he said, money comes and goes. Once he's gone, the only thing his children and generations of UFC fans to come are going to have to remember about him.
Yeah, Larry, I think we've talked about this in the past, but The thing is that there's that famous quote, you can't go out running when you're sleeping in silk sheets. It's hard to do when you have everything in the world like Conor McGregor. He's buying that Lamborghini yacht that's like $1 million. He's coming to Fight Island in a yacht bigger than the W hotel that they're staying in. This guy is bigger than life. He buys whatever car he wants. He wears whatever he wants. He shows up to the hotel shirtless with people cheering his name. This guy is one of the greatest things to happen to MMA. The biggest star. But how do you think, Larry, that the money has changed him? Do you think that he can still be that hungry fighter in this stage of his career?
I think the money definitely had an impact on him and his fighting career overall, but I think he definitely still has that hunger for not just money, but, over fight, because fighting, it's his life. It's what he does, He's a complete animal. When you put him in a cage with another opponent, he does what he does best. He takes them down and stuff, So I think he definitely will still have that hunger.
Now, I would be pretty sad if we don't talk about Dustin Poirier's rise to fame and all of the accomplishments that he's had. Now, Dustin Poirier, I think, is the perfect fight for Conor McGregor. And I don't know if you guys want to agree or disagree with me, but I think that Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier is a perfect fight to figure out where everybody's at. Now, Dustin Poirier has done some amazing stuff. I said that Conor McGregor's the best fight that he's ever had is the Eddie Alvarez fight. But Dustin Poirier and his fight against Eddie Alvarez, his two fights were spectacular on their own. Now, these two fights, one that got ended by an illegal knee, and then the other one that ended by TKO punches, was one of the greatest fights that I've ever seen. And then for Dustin Poirier, after the illegal kick, to go against Anthony Pettis, the former belt holder, submit him, then face Justin Gaethje, who just fought for the belt, and end him with TKO punches, and then go against the featherweight king in Max Holloway and beat him in unanimous decision. Then he had the loss to Khabib Nurmagomedov, but who doesn't have a loss? The guy is almost 30-0. Then he fought Dan Hooker, who's underneath him. Jay, what do you think that Dustin Poirier is going to be known for when his career is all said and done? This guy's a gritty fighter. He's one of the hardest working people in the sport. He's one of the most difficult people to take out. Mass, I don't know if you want to talk about this because you know so much about Dustin Poirier, but Jay, you can take it. Whoever wants to talk about it.
I can go. You know what? We got to look at this. Dustin is a tremendously improved fighter ever since his first fight with Conor. Like you just said earlier, he's beat a lot of opponents that Conor has fought as well. Now, to play devil's advocate, look, I believe that Dustin may have the chance of weathering the storm in the first round. I believe that, if he tries avoiding that power left from, at the beginning of the first round, if it goes in the second, but I believe that if this fight goes into the third, fourth, fifth round, we got to understand that, Dustin, he's a cardio machine, and we know that he can go the distance for sure. And yeah.
I agree. I agree with you.
Yeah. Basically what I was going to say.
So, I mean, Dustin Poirier, who's shown so much in his career, this is the biggest fight. This is the biggest fight for him, hands down. If he wins this, he'll get that taste of that belt. He might. We don't know with Khabib, but we're all assuming that whoever wins this is going to get a title shot.
That money fight.
There you go. Yeah, this is the money fight right here. And then
basically.
And then the Khabib fight, I mean, he's already fought him once. Maybe he's been thinking about ways to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. Now, Jay, what do you think are the implications of this fight? If Conor McGregor loses, What do you think that does for his career? Like, what do you think happens? Do you think people think that he's all talk and just hype?
You know, I don't think this is a fight for Conor McGregor to lose. I think this is basically set up for him to win. He hasn't fought over a year. You know, he's got all the rehabilitation, the downtime that he's had to recover from the fight that he had before. I think he's pretty much set up to win this. He should. And I think if he doesn't win, it's going to have a pretty big impact on him for sure. He's already beat Dustin Poirier once. I think he can do it again. I'm sure he'll do it again. I think it'll have a pretty big impact on him if he doesn't win this. I also noticed he hasn't been playing a lot of mind games like he usually does. So that's another issue not an issue, I would say, but something that I noticed that he usually has the mind games, but in the fights previous, but I noticed he hasn't really been doing that. I could agree with what Kevin said. Khabib really humbled him. I'm pretty sure that's got to humble him a lot. But I think this will definitely have a bad impact if Conor doesn't end up winning. I think he should honestly end up TKO, KO. He shouldn't go to decision. I think Conor will take it.
Kevin, what do you think? What do you think the implications are? If Dustin Poirier wins, what do you think happens then? And if Conor McGregor wins, what do you think happens then?
I think if, like you said earlier, I think if Dustin wins, then he possibly can get a chance at maybe at the title, like you said. And that would be crazy. That'd be crazy for him, right? Also redemption as well, since he did lose the first time when Conor and him fought. So I think that's what's going on for Dustin. If Conor wins, I think if Conor wins, he'll probably have a chance to go for the title. Who knows if Khabib decides that he wants to come back and fight again? We could possibly see Conor versus Khabib too, which would be insane. We all know that. That'd be crazy.
You're the one that sent me the video of Dana White talking to Khabib Nurmagomedov and saying that look at the numbers that Dustin Poirier is doing.
Yeah, this fight is already surpassed.
Yeah, and let me know what you think about that. Like, what do you think? Like, what do you think the effect would have? Do you think that would be the biggest pay-per-view in pay-per-view history?
I think so. All that hype they can put behind it, I think so. The promos, all the videos that those guys make, just from people seeing those would make people go insane. And when that fight did happen back in the day, people who didn't watch UFC knew about it. Everyone knew that fight was going to happen.
Everybody. It was mass. It was crazy.
It's crazy.
Larry, we saw the amount of trash talk between Khabib Nurmagomedov and Conor McGregor. We saw how bad that was for the sport, in my opinion. You know, we saw Khabib jump out of the cage. We saw Conor McGregor throwing dollies and then getting arrested.
Definitely,
that can't be a good look for the sport.
Nope.
What do you think? What do you think that is going to? How is that going to impact the sport? Do you think that these two are going to go in and face off against each other without trash talking? Larry, go ahead.
I definitely think between Khabib and Conor, there's no such thing as no trash talk between the two. They absolutely hate each other. I don't know. I wouldn't understand if there was no trash talking, if they were humble to each other. I feel like, you know, these two guys are like the biggest animals in the sport. They're crazy. They're good at what they do. They know what they're doing. They each have their strengths and weaknesses. And I think there's definitely will be trash talk between the two, and it will be a very interesting fight again.
Yeah, for sure. We're actually running out of time, but I was talking to the boys and we were talking about giving picks. So let's give our picks. You tell me who's going to win and what round and method. Okay. So we'll start with Mass. Go ahead.
Honestly, that's I was talking to a couple of friends earlier today, and that's a very hard question for me. All I'm going to say is I'm looking forward to a war. Conor, I could tell he's at his peak right now. I know he's going to be very dangerous, but I also know Poirier, he looks pretty dangerous to me as well. I'm just going to go with I'm really looking forward to this war.
You got to give a pick, my friend. Come on.
You gotta give a pick. Okay, I'm gonna say Conor, second round in the first 50 seconds by knockout.
Damn. Okay. All right, Nibs, go.
Well, I think this fight's gonna go all the way to decision. I think I mean, like, anything could happen between these two, but looking at Dustin Poirier, I think he'll be able to handle Conor McGregor all the way till the end. And I think he might come away with this.
All right. We don't have that much time left. Kevin, pick.
I think I want to see Conor first round knockout. That's what I want to see. That's what I want.
Larry?
I'd love to see a first round knockout as well, but I definitely am leaning towards maybe a second round knockout by Conor McGregor.
Yeah. Jay?
As much as I would love to see this fight go the distance, just so I could see a longer fight, I think Conor would take this early in the fight. I'd say second round knockout.
We have a very biased Conor McGregor podcast right here, and I'm not going to derail the hype train. I also believe that Conor McGregor is going to win. I don't usually give picks, so this is a special card. I'm going to give my pick. I'm going to say Conor McGregor in the second round, TKO finish. I just think that Conor McGregor has it all. He's been going at it, and this is such a special card. So if you guys could like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification on YouTube, that'd be amazing. And if you can give 5 stars on the different podcast platforms, that'd be highly appreciated. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Thank you for listening to this podcast. This has been the Body Punch Podcast. My name is Naz. Bye.